Sandwiched in between Romania and Ukraine, in a political crucible, there's no other way to put it, is a nation of Moldova. For Bloomberg, we get a brief now from Mihail Popsoi, Moldova's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs as well. On a day-to-day basis, how is Moldova dealing with the protracted war in Ukraine?
Well, sadly, Moldova is the most affected country by the war in Ukraine, other than Ukraine itself, of course. But despite this enormous struggle and challenge, Moldova now is more resilient than 2-3 years ago. Thanks to the resilience of our society and the support of our international partners, Moldova has diversified its energy supply. Moldova is consolidating its democratic institutions. Moldova is building a much more resilient society. But of course, the challenges are severe. The economic impact is felt very strongly. But thanks to the support of our citizens and the support of our international partners, Moldova is not just muddling through, but achieving meaningful progress, being a candidate to join the EU.
Well, this is key, and the key here is, I think of Romania, is Admiral Stavridis and others have said, the build-out of the Navy on the Black Sea of Romania, north of Turkey, south of all the tragedy of Odessa, Mariupol, and that. What do you need from the EU right now to protect the independence of Moldova?
Well, the support that we receive to boost our defense capabilities is important. But just as important is the economic support to maintain the macro-financial stability in the country in light of the high inflation that we saw 2-3 years ago, the highest in Europe as a result of Russian energy blackmail. But now things are going back to normal. Inflation has stabilized and is back to about 5%. And we hope, they say hope is not a great strategy, but more often than not it's the only thing we have. We hope that the worst is behind us. And now we can plan ahead. We just had the Moldova Partnership Platform last week, where international community has come to Chisinau and provided pledges of support and actual support to us, for us to invest in infrastructure, to be better positioned as a logistics hub to help Ukraine when the reconstruction time comes. So those are the type of things that our partners are helping Moldova with. And of course, investments. We cannot emphasize enough that international support and budget support is great, but there is nothing better than investment that provide a dignified job at home. And we're also working with our partners to provide risk insurance for potential investors from US, from Europe. So that's something that could be of interest to your audience.
As Mr. Zelensky makes his way to Washington and presents his victory plan to President Biden and Vice President Harris, there's this conversation that's been swirling around New York over the course of this week, but around the world for longer than that, about sort of how that conflict ends. I want to ask you about a phrase that you know well, and that is a frozen conflict, how a country deals with that, going back to 1992 in your country's case, where things aren't settled ultimately or finally, things fester for longer than that. What does your country's experience with that tell us about how we should look at the end game here when it comes to Ukraine and Russia?
You're totally right. We have experience, unfortunately, with a frozen conflict, which is certainly stifling a country's development. We have all been held hostage, not just Moldova proper, the constitutionally controlled part of Moldova, but also the separatist entity, the Transnistrian region of the Republic of Moldova. This is a challenge for our development, and we would not wish to anyone to have a frozen conflict, because that undercuts the economic potential and the well-being of the country.
We continue with Mihail Popsoi. He is Moldova's Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, an important voice at the UN meetings in New York City this week. The fact is, in the civics that David Gura and I struggled through, and I'm not going to mince words, we spent, an hour, 50 minutes on Moldova, in high school and college.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
The distance here. The fact is, you are the nexus between Russia coming south and the Ottoman Empire years ago moving north. To David's question on stability, given what you see in Erdogan's Turkey, the iterations of Erdogan's Turkey, when do you get stability? Is it about Russia, or is it about relationships with Turkey?
Well, our relationship with Turkey are great. The stability in the Transnistrian region of the Republic of Moldova is also ensured by our policy to only engage in a peaceful settlement. We don't see any other solution other than a peaceful settlement of the conflict, which in fact there is no conflict. There was an artificial construct, the struggle that we had in the early 90s. Because at the people's level, there is no problem. So we are determined to maintain peace and stability in the Republic of Moldova, and of course we count on the international partners to helping Ukraine, because our stability, of course, rests to a large degree on developments in Ukraine.
Then what do you need from the United States of America to assist Ukraine to the north and east?
The most important is for Ukraine to have the support that it needs to be able to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity, because if we don't allow countries to defend themselves and we end up in a situation where might makes right, then this is a recipe for disaster down the road in many other hotspots in the world. So we need to make sure that international community stands by international law and international humanitarian law and provides Ukraine all the support that it needs to defend all the values that we share together.
Deputy Prime Minister, thank you for joining Bloomberg today. Mihail Popsoi with us, Moldova's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs. I mean, you get out the map, and, you know, my knowledge of Liechtenstein, and, you know, name 6 other countries in Moldova, we're ugly Americans. I mean, Lisa, I'm not proud of it. I mean, I really, folks, before this interview, I had to prepare and like, okay, where's it on the map? That's how ignorant we are in America.
And I think it's a challenge here as this conflict persists between Ukraine and Russia, getting Americans to understand the importance of it, both to the country itself and geopolitically. And I think there have been some inroads there, but I think, as you say, there are a lot of people in this country who don't grasp the magnitude and significance of it.
Mihail, are you surviving the traffic of Midtown Manhattan? It's not always like this.
He
it's
might
your
have
fault.
an escort. He might have an easier time.
I do not have an escort. It's been hectic, but it's been a very productive week. And
in what way? Quickly here, in what way?
Oh, I've had some great bilateral meetings with the Foreign Minister of India, of Egypt, our good friends and brothers from Romania, and many other good friends.